Hello dear friends. You are in the knitting studio in style. Today, we will knit a plush blanket. For this project we will need yarn. I have these balls of yarn. They are from China. Here I have 30 grams, 55 meters, 100% nylon. This is the yarn. I have different colors, so the blanket will be rainbow colored. We will also need size 4.5 needles, scissors, a tape measure, and a hook. It is needed to hide the ends. Something larger. I have again with 0.5 millimeter, and a notebook with a pen for notes. Although there won't be any special calculations here, I will explain a bit schematically here. For example, this is our blanket. This time we will knit differently than usual. Here is how we usually knit. We cast on the required number of stitches and knit straight. No, now we will knit from one corner to the other corner. That is, initially, we will cast on 3 stitches. Then, we will knit like this to this corner, meaning the pattern will be diagonal like this. I have this multicolored yarn, so I think it will look quite nice in this version. That is, when the pattern is slightly diagonal. So friends, we are knitting from this corner. We cast on 3 stitches and knit in rows. Initially, we make increases at the beginning of the row and the end of the row in each right side row. We will keep increasing until we reach the desired width of the blanket. The width of the blanket will equal this side, or this one. They will be equal to each other. That is, we keep adding and adding until this side is equal to the width of the blanket we need. I think that's clear, so that's all. The necessary width of the blanket is achieved. Next, we need to knit straight. We will knit straight. I will show how later. After we understand that the length of the blanket is also sufficient, we will decrease this corner. I think that's clear. Now, I will explain and show everything clearly. So, we take the needles and cast on 3 stitches in the usual universal way. 2, 3. We take 1 needle. Well, as usual, at the beginning of knitting, then we start to knit. That is, this will be our corner. Next, we knit how? We slip the first edge stitch. Then we make a yarn over. That is, an increase after the edge stitch. The next one we knit as a knit stitch through the front loop. And before knitting the edge stitch, we make another yarn over. We knit the edge stitch as a purl. I knit it using the grandmother method. This will be our knit side, although it won't be visible here where the knit is and where the purl is. Therefore, I recommend making some mark here on the knit side. Hang some marker, for example, to see where our knit side is, so that later on the knit side we can make yarn overs and increases. So, this is the knit side. We knitted a yarn over after the edge stitch and a yarn over before the edge stitch at the end. That is. We made 2 increases. We turn the knitting. Here it's very hard to see on the fluffy yarn, but I will explain how I knit. So, we slip the edge stitch. Next, we have a yarn over. We knit it through the front wall. My pattern will be garter stitch. Therefore, I will knit all the stitches through the front wall. By the way, you can use not only garter stitch. You can use a purl pattern or something else. So, this is at your discretion. I have a fluffy yarn here, so the pattern won't be visible. I decided to knit in garter stitch. That is, all stitches through the front wall. So, here is my usual stitch. I knit it through the front wall. Next I have a yarn over. I knit it through the back wall. And I knit the last edge stitch as purl, using the grandmother's method. This is our purl row. We turn the work. Next, we proceed the same way. Slip the edge stitch, we make a yarn over. All other stitches are knit through the front wall. Now we have one edge stitch left. Again, we make a yarn over and knit the edge stitch as purl, using the grandmother's method. This is our knit row now. We turn the work, we slip the edge stitch. There is a yarn over now. We knit it as knit, but through the back wall, so we get a twisted stitch. Next, we knit all stitches through the front. And here, the yarn over is the second to last. We also knit it as knit, but through the back wall. We knit the last edge stitch as purl, using the grandmother's method. This way, we turn the work and do it all the same. We slip the edge stitch. Next, we make a yarn over. After that, we knit all the stitches in the front loop. At the end, we do another yarn over and purl. We knit the border stitch in the grandma way. This is our right side. On the wrong side, we slip the border stitch. We knit the yarn over in the front loop. Next, we knit all stitches in the front loop. At the end, a yarn over. Here is the second last stitch. This is our yarn over that we knitted in the last row. We knit it in the back loop as a knit and the last stitch as a purl in the grandma way. We turn the work. This is our right side. As I said, it's better to attach a marker here for convenience. So it's clear where our right side is and where to make yarn overs. That is, in the right row, we will make yarn overs after the border and before the border. In the wrong row next, we will knit the yarn overs in the front loop. Otherwise, we knit according to the pattern. Whatever pattern you choose, we will knit it that way. This way, we make increases. So, it turns out in the right rows. On the right and left, that is, we gradually increase the fabric. We start with 3 stitches. That's it, friends. We will keep increasing until we reach the desired width of the blanket. And as I said, you can choose any other pattern you like. In my case, it's garter stitch. All knits in the front loop. That's all, friends. Let's knit, and then we'll meet. I will tell you what my blanket width will be. Friends, I have knitted to the width I need for the blanket. Before I tell you how things are going here, I want to share an easier and simpler way to knit. This corner that we knitted could have been done more simply like this. Look, in each row it doesn't matter if it's a knit or purl row. In every row, we make an increase after the border stitch. That is, look, we knit, let's say, the beginning of the row. We knit, remove the border stitch, then make a yarn over and continue according to the pattern. We turn the work and repeat. That is, we remove the border stitch, make a yarn over again, and then continue according to our pattern. This way, it will be easier for you. There is no need to keep track of which row is knit and which is purl. At the beginning of each row, we make an increase in the form of a yarn over after the border stitch. Thus, in the next row, we simply knit this increase. this yarn over so that there are no holes. That's all, friends. I shared this quickly to make knitting easier. Now I will tell you what my dimensions turned out to be. Look, we knitted this part. Look, here it is. I can't show you because my blanket turned out large. The width of my blanket is 120 centimeters. I thought it would be bigger, but I looked at the yarns. It turns out that I can only make approximately this size. And it may be that I even have a square, not a rectangle. Look, 120 centimeters this side and that. That is, from this corner, we are making increases. We've reached this point. So, 120 centimeters on one side, 120 centimeters on the other side, 1 meter 20. That's it. Next we need to knit straight like this up to this point. And then we start to decrease. That is, do the same as here, just decreasing the stitches now. Friends, I think everything is clear here. I want to note that my triangle weighs 270 grams. I use 9 skeins for it. I have skeins of 30 grams each. Accordingly, we need to leave 9 skeins for this triangle for our decreases. I have left 9 skeins. All the other yarn that you have will be used for length. That is, we are going to knit this part straight. We already have the required width. We will now be knitting straight fabric. Unfortunately, I only have 6 skeins of 30 grams left for this part. So friends, I don't know. I might end up with a square. That means, friends, you understand, right? We reached the required width, and noted how many skeins we spent on this part. Accordingly, we will leave the same amount for this part. Everything else will go towards the length of the blanket. Look, I ended up with these stripes. So, orange, pink, purple, and I switched to blue. Well then, we're going to knit the length of the blanket now that we have knitted the required width. For example, this is the start of the row, friends. Look at what we will do to ensure that our fabric continues straight without any increases or decreases. We mark the right side row, let's say, yes. Here I marked it. This is ours. We will now knit the right side row. So, at the beginning of each right side row, we will make an increase after the edge stitch. That is, we slip the edge stitch. Next, we make an increase in the form of a yarn over, and then continue knitting according to the pattern. For me, these are knit stitches through the front loop. I am doing garter stitch, right? So, we reach the end of the row. Well, friends, we reach the end of our right side row. At the end of each right side row, we will do a decrease by knitting 2 stitches together through the front loop. Here I have 3 stitches left on the left needle, 1 edge stitch and 2 regular stitches, right? These are the 2 regular stitches. We will knit them knitwise through the front loop. We have knitted, that means we made a decrease. We have 1 edge stitch left, the edge stitch we, as usual, will knit purlwise using the grandmother's method, so at the end of the row, we made a decrease. At the beginning of the row, we made an increase, at the end a decrease. This is our knit row, the purl row. That means we will now turn the work. It's hard to show because the fabric is large. We turn the work, and we will knit the purl row with regular stitches. That means we slip the edge stitch and continue knitting according to the pattern. For me, these are knit stitches through the front loop. Our yarn over, which we will have at the end of the row, we will knit in a way that avoids a hole. That means through the back loop. That's it. This is our purl row. We are knitting with regular stitches. If we knit this way, then we will have the same number of stitches in the row without changes, and we need to remember that in the knit row, we make an increase at the beginning and a decrease at the end. The purl rows are knitted according to the pattern, this way. A hole will not form. That's it, friends. This is how we knit until we reach the length we need for the blanket. And after knitting several rows, we can already stop constantly looking at our marker to see where our knit row is. And just look, the pattern shows itself. That is, if at the beginning of the row we see an increase, it means we will add stitches here. So that means this is our knit row. And at the end, we see such decreases. Accordingly, here we need to decrease a stitch. The next row will simply be knitted according to the pattern. The next row is our purl row. I think you will understand while knitting the fabric. Well, that's it. Friends, we have finished knitting the main fabric. We have completed our length of the blanket and are moving on to decrease stitches. This means we have used up all our skeins. We left some in the middle, that is. I used 9 skeins for this corner. I kept 9 skeins for the second corner. Everything else I knitted for this main length of the blanket. But actually, it's not too scary that I have few skeins left for this part. Look, if we remove this part in the middle and fold these 2 corners, it will be a square, so we could have simply not knitted this fabric and made a square blanket instead. Now we have reached this point. Now we need to decrease our blanket from both sides. We need to decrease to get to 3 stitches as we had originally. Now we will start decreasing. Look! This is my right side row. The fabric is increasing here. We had some increases. We are making decreases. Decreases can also be done in 2 ways. We can do this on every right side row. This is my right side row. At the beginning and end of the row, we make a decrease. That is, 2 decreases per row. At the beginning and at the end, initially, we simply knit according to the pattern. Usually, we slip the edge stitch. The next 2 stitches we knit together through the front loop. Then we knit according to the pattern. For me, this is knit stitches through the front loop. Here is the end of the row, the second. And the 3rd stitch from the end is also knitted together through the front loop, that is. This is our decrease. The last stitch is the edge stitch. I knit it as the original grandmother did, this way. This is our right side row. Next we turn on knitting. And the initial row we knit, simply according to the pattern. In my case, these are all knit stitches. Well, look again my front row. Here, the increases are visible. That is, I finished the initial row. How can we make the decreases simpler? We can. So we don't have to check where the front is or the initial row. We can make a decrease in each row, 1 decrease at the end of the row. It can be done at the beginning, I guess, but I think it's better. At the end of the row, at the beginning of the row, we simply slip the edge stitch and knit according to the pattern in knit stitches. The decrease will come at the end. Here I am, at the end of the row. So we leave the edge stitch. And we knit the 2nd and 3rd stitches together through the front loop as knit stitches. We knit the last edge stitch as the initial one, grannies. This is how we will finish each row. And this way, we will make 1 decrease in each row. And we will evenly decrease 1 stitch from both sides. That's it, generally. I'm going to knit. When I reach the end of my knitting, we will meet. I will show how to finish our braid. Well, I have almost finished the braid and reached 4 stitches. So we slip the edge stitch. Next, we knit the 2 stitches together as knit stitches through the front loop and the edge stitch as the initial granny. That's it. We have 3 stitches left. We turn the knitting. Now we simply close these 3 stitches. We close them by any method convenient for you. Probably the easiest will be to just knit 2 stitches together as knit stitches. We have knitted together, return the left needle, and there are 2 stitches left. We also knit them together as knit stitches. We are left with 1 stitch, and we pull the thread tight. And we knit, as it were, an air stitch. Thus, to prevent our seam from unraveling, we secure it. This is how it turns out. Now we need to hide the thread right here, so that the corner looks nice. In general, all the threads that need to be hidden, I find it easier to hide them using a needle. Perhaps for someone it is easier with a hook. Well, sometimes I will use a hook to help a bit. But mainly I will thread the yarn through the needle and precisely hide all the ends with the needle. Here, it absolutely does not matter where we poke it, because it is not visible on the fuzzy thread. If you have regular thread, then of course you need to ensure it looks nice. We pull it through some loops, tighten the fabric, and I leave it a little. A small little tail, so that the thread does not pop out from the back, for example, and stick out. This is how we hide all the threads of the blanket. And that's it, our blanket is ready. Thank you for watching this video to the end. I hope you find it helpful. Subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and we will meet soon in the next masterclass. Bye bye.